Happy New Year. Hope everyone is easing into the new year gracefully and giving yourself some grace and time to just take it easy. Just waiting for my friend Nadine. We are going to talk about themes from my book. We're talking about just coming off the holidays, and we'll see where the conversation goes. But let me just let Nadine in here. What's going on? View request. Technical difficulties like last time. And thanks everyone for joining live. Excited to do this again. Hey Nadine.
Hello.
I can see you. Can you see me this time? Okay.
I can.
It's working. Okay, good.
It is.
Good.
I'm pleased.
Good to see you. Happy to be back talking, doing another Love Me Chit Chat, and just always love what we talk about because it's always real and we just let it flow, and however it goes, like there's, we never know, but it's always so good and so helpful, I think, for a lot of people. So to talk about these things, and we always do it around the new moon if we can. And hi Rebecca in Hawaii. Oh, I didn't know you were going to be in Hawaii. That's amazing.
How wonderful. That makes me feel nice and
I know.
I hope it's warm.
I know, because it's cold and gray here in Toronto.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the new moon in Capricorn on the 11th, which is tomorrow. I can't recall the exact time it peaks, but we are already in that energy, and always with new moons, we feel a buildup after the new moon peaks, or after, yeah, and we feel that build afterwards, whereas in a full moon, we always feel it leading up to, and we always pretty much, I don't know, I can always tell it's coming because I can always feel the intensity increase as the days go by. So this new moon in Capricorn is also, it's kind of a very interesting and heavily astrologically supported in a good way, I think, with it being the midpoint of where the new moon and also the sun are midway between the two, the north and the south node, which is where we when the moons approach the nodes, that's when we have eclipses. So we're in the midpoint of the last eclipse back in, I think, October, and then the next one, which will be in April. And so we're at that midpoint. So we might be feeling some of what we were feeling back in October, whatever was coming up for us at the last eclipse might be kind of resurfacing again. And I know I am kind of feeling that. It might have been November, that whenever the last eclipse was, let's just say that. So whatever came up for you, it might be feeling familiar again. I don't know if you're feeling that same way, Nadine, but
Do you know, I think with me, and I probably think it's with a lot of people too, again, that collective energy of, it's like we're revisiting a lot. We're going around in circles and we're revisiting. And I always take that as like it's the lesson I need to learn again. We talked about unlearning before, haven't we?
yeah,
Relearning in a different way. But sometimes it is just, sometimes we do need to sit with things a bit more, don't we? So I am feeling that energy. I don't know about the timings, I'm a bit like you, but I do think that there are things repeating.
yes,
And I think this is what we wanted to talk a bit about today, didn't we? Because we've just had our Christmas time, and I think you call it holidays, don't you? And how we do go back to our old patterns, especially if we're spending time with family.
yeah,
Things come up for
yes.
us again. And this is where we get that chance to perhaps do things a bit differently, or not. Perhaps we notice we just repeat the same old patterns. But I think that's happening in a bigger time span as well. It's not just the Christmas period, but it definitely, that highlights it, doesn't it? So, I mean, do you feel that as
I think
well?
it does, because a lot of us, I mean, yeah, spend more time than usual with our families during the holidays, and
Mm.
maybe sometimes we don't, like whatever, whatever our plans are. But when we do, I think you're right. It's kind of, things come up that habitually come up, and but it doesn't have to always be that way. Like, just because it's always been that way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. And I think, this ties in a lot with what we continue to talk about around taking ownership around our own healing and going into that on a deeper level, because we don't have to operate from those places of our wounds when we were, in our younger years, or things that happened, like with it, family dynamics or whatever it might be. That, I think it's a common thing for that to come up, especially around the holidays, because we're already operating at a baseline of stress, because it's just such a busy time and can be sometimes chaotic and all of that. So if we're not doing the work we need to do inside of connecting with ourselves and allowing ourselves that opportunity to go into those a little bit more grounded, then things might just happen the way they've always happened.
Yes, yeah. And that is exactly what I think a lot of people experience. And then we don't know how it's happened. We don't know how to do it differently. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something I know, we have had that experience, or I especially have, repeating the same things over and over again and then going, oh, what happened there? How did that happen? And trying to find a way to do it a little bit differently
Mm-hmm.
is really beneficial, isn't it, for everybody? And definitely for us. And I think you said about that, we have that time when we do connect with our families that maybe isn't something we do all the time. So there's the pressure we put on ourselves and the way that we want it all to be perfect, the busyness in the run up to Christmas. I used to do, and I intend to do again, workshops on I used to call it a countdown to a calmer
Oh,
Christmas. So that
yeah.
in that time when we're preparing, we managed to fit in some self-care, some me time, some prep, for ourselves and our own well-being as well, because that gets forgotten, doesn't it? So
Mm-hmm.
quite often when all the families get together, houses are full, and there's all of this it has to be perfect attitude, that we put on ourselves. We're tired as well, we're exhausted.
We are, yeah,
How many times have you heard people go, I can't wait for Christmas Day because I'm just gonna do
yeah,
nothing, I'm just gonna rest, I can't wait for that time, because they worn themselves out. We can
yeah.
all do, can't we? So I feel that there is, if we can do that prep,
Mm-hmm.
including ourselves, preparing ourselves, giving ourselves space and time and care
Mm-hmm.
in that run up, that does help. And I know lots of people are probably saying, listening to this, oh yeah, it's easier said than done, isn't it? Finding that time, finding that space. But it's so helpful, isn't it, if we do that and we're not exhausted by the time we all get together. And it's so, so helpful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So would you feel, and I think you said, something I've learned from you anyway, and I know you remind me quite often, is that it is old wounds sometimes that surface that we haven't
Mm-hmm.
healed. And it's definitely, would you agree that it's definitely beneficial to maybe spend a bit of time and effort trying to look at that before it erupts, before it comes out? Do you think
I
that's
think,
something?
yeah, I definitely think that. And it's, so it's not necessarily like we do this right before we go meet our family, but it's
Yeah,
ongoing work. Number one,
yeah,
it's always
yeah,
ongoing. We're never finished with this. And in that knowing of that, we can give ourselves grace that we're not always going to be perfect. Like you mentioned, the need to be perfect. And with that comes expectation. When we want to be everything to go a certain way, we also, and then other people, so there's expectations placed on other people place expectations on us, and
yeah.
then we lose ourselves in that because we're trying to measure up to the
Mhm,
expectations, and
mhm,
to make everything, to try to avoid conflict, and try to, instead of like approaching it from a way like where we start, like everything in life, like, and this sounds like weird, but it begins with us, like
yeah,
as individuals, like
mhm,
everything on the collective level, everything on the family level, everything on the co-working space level begins with, like, that we experience, it begins with us. Like, peace
yeah,
begins with us. And so we have to, I think, if we want things to be different, if we want it to look different, we have to do something different, and something with it, like building that connection with ourselves, going into those things that we've been avoiding, because the very wounds that we're avoiding are the places we're operating from when we're with family, because our behavior just across the board in general is driven by our subconscious. So our wounds are in our subconscious. Like we've buried them. We've convinced ourselves we're okay. We don't need to do anything. Like, I'm good. My life is good. And then, but when we get with family, those buttons get pushed. And then where do we operate from? The wounds that we've been avoiding. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's so important to just acknowledge that we all have it. We all have it to some degree.
Yeah.
And when something that's coming in now, so I'm just going to say it, when we avoid doing that work, when something major happens in our life, when we're going through, we get a diagnosis, or we lose a major loss in our life, all the things that we didn't handle and manage and address in the moment, that we've kind of tucked away inside somewhere, all of that stuff comes up with that. So it's like
Yeah.
even a greater, I mean, wouldn't you agree to like
To-
that? I feel like that's why
Totally.
sometimes we get stuck, because
Yeah.
there's more than what we're dealing with in the present moment. It's things we
Yes.
haven't dealt with before.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I had a little chuckle at something you said earlier there about, because I used to think, I used to have, and I've shared this with you and I'll share it with everyone now, there used to be the same, I'm going to say argument, because when I've said row before, that doesn't translate to it with other companies. We had the same family argument every year. And I've got to be honest, it was started by me because I was trying to make everything perfect. I wasn't going about it in the right way. And what made me chuckle was that I used to think if I could just get everyone to do what I told them to do, it would be great. But that isn't what it's about. And what I have learned, it is funny, isn't it? It's not funny at the time, but
Yeah.
it is funny. And it's something that I have learned when I remember a therapist saying to me years ago, it's not about everybody else. You do it yourself. And you just said similar, didn't you? We need to do the work on ourselves. It took me so long to understand that and actually agree with it. And I still sometimes go, oh, if everyone else could just do, I still have that in me, but I do understand that the work needs to be done, and this is where the work, continuing to look at things and do things,
Mm-hmm.
it means that you are in a better place, like you say, when someone pushes those buttons and when those triggers hit and when you react in those old patterns and those old habits that are there,
Yeah.
and without it they are. And you said about like diagnosis, people know that I had a cancer diagnosis about a year ago, and that threw me straight back to all of my childhood fears, all my insecurities, everything came up. So I wasn't dealing with the one thing, the cancer diagnosis, and I'm not downplaying that because that's big in itself. I was dealing with all the other stuff as well that I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't really parked. So it comes back, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it is okay that things surface again. It's protection, it's our ego coming in, it's all of these things, isn't it? But knowing that actually when things do erupt, if you like as I say, our traditional family argument at
Yeah.
Christmas time, there's so much more to it than what has sparked it at the time. And it was
Yes.
quite often sparked by something as simple as a bit of cutlery being in the wrong place or something like that. Ridiculous, silly little things that would spark something massive. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realise repeating this year after year after year, which I did, and I will take the responsibility and the blame for that because I did it. I made it happen. I just feel, what was I trying to do? What was going on? And there's a lot deep down that I have learned through the years of healing other things and getting to terms with other things. I thought, oh, that may be what part of that was. So I'm understanding better. And I do realise now that it isn't down to anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
much as I think it would be easier if it was. It's down to me. It's down to how I react to things. It's down to my tone of voice, even
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, my expectations, the pressure I put on myself. And if I don't do that, then everything's much more pleasant all round. And I feel that that's what we can maybe share with other people, a bit of how we prevent it and how, because a lot of people are probably going, oh yeah, but we can't stop it. So it is a
Yeah.
lot of that, say, year round self-care, year round doing the work, not avoiding things, like you say, not pushing the easy button,
Right.
dealing with things when they come up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so, yeah, just to reiterate that point, because like as we're talking about this, I'm thinking people are probably like, well, why are you guys talking about this after after the holidays? Not just Christmas,
Exactly.
Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. There's
Yeah.
family get-togethers, there's friendsgiving, whatever, and
Mm,
stuff happens there too. So
mm,
but it's like it's fresh in everyone's mind, and it's like it doesn't always have to be this way. It doesn't, because that just adds, number one, another layer of stress. But like to your point, now I lost my the point that I was going to make,
mm.
but I'm sure it'll come back.
It will.
Oh,
It will
yeah,
do.
like doing like the same thing, like you said, when you had your diagnosis and then all these things came up. The same thing for me. That's why I wrote the book that we're
Yeah.
basing
Yeah.
the Love Me Chit Chats on,
Exactly. We are.
is
Yeah.
when I had that major breakup in my life. It wasn't just about that. It was the realization that I had that this was a pattern, that it was
Mm,
me, that I needed to do the work on me. Like,
yes.
why am I
Yeah.
showing up this way?
Yeah.
And like you use the word react. I think a lot of times we don't even realize we're just reacting.
Mm,
We're not
mm,
like, not, I don't want to use the word never. We're not consciously thinking about what we're actually saying. We're just waiting to react, especially with family, because I think we kind of like let everything go, and there's the people we're the most comfortable with in our lives, so that, and then we are operating from those places that we haven't healed, that it just like, and then that just like snowballs into this big conflict, and it keeps repeating because
mm.
everyone is kind of like pointing the fingers. Well, if you would have just done this, and if you would have just done that, and if you wouldn't
Yeah.
have said that, and but it's like, no, it begins like, it's understanding that we're all human, that we all have an ego, and that it's okay too, that we all have areas that we can deepen our connection with, and deepen our understanding of ourselves, so that we're going into these situations in a more grounded place, that when somebody does the same thing they always do every year, it's not going to trigger us into, and
Yes.
then into going into this pattern of
Yeah.
conflict
Mm.
or row, as you so
I,
eloquently say.
something
So
wonderful,
I
isn't it?
love that you,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
It is that, isn't it? It's a lot to do with, like you say, it is it. Well, I've said it. A bit of preparing, isn't it? And actually just understanding
Mm-hmm.
that we are going to maybe repeat the same things again, and that's okay. And
Mm-hmm.
something, and I'm not saying it's a how. Well, it is actually how we can change that. But the realization, and I had it this year, coming up to the Christmas time and the getting together and everything. I had, I mean, I'm not doing social stuff at all at the moment because of my immunity, but that even just meeting up with my family, um, I was a bit concerned about if it was going to be the same again, and then thinking, oh, it won't be
Mm-hmm.
because I've changed so much since my diagnosis and things like that. But also, and I don't want to bring the mood down necessarily, but I was very grateful to be here this Christmas. I mean, this time last year, I didn't know if I would see another Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
That was a reality. I had to face that. But something that really did help me, and again, it's a tip people can use or not, however people feel about it, to actually appreciate the people that I'm with, and how, like you said just now, we can let our guard down. I behave my worst around the people I feel the most comfortable with, and that is my family. So I have my bad behavior, but that is, I feel safe. I feel that's okay to do that. It's not the way that I'm proud of behaving, but I know I do it, and I think we all can do that.
Yeah.
But I did think a little bit like, it wasn't just, am I going to be here next Christmas? When I was thinking about this time last year, but it was, are they going to be there? We all
Mm-hmm.
have times of sadness and loss at Christmas. We're missing people, aren't we? There's every year there's people that are missing in our lives, aren't there? That we miss, and that adds to that. I feel sometimes our mood and our temperament around that time. But to just actually think when someone is annoying you, well, this
Mm-hmm.
is what I've done anyway. Go, I'm glad they're here. This is
Yeah.
precious to me, even if they're really annoying and they're doing something they always do, and it's really, really frustrating because it is. To actually go, I miss them when they're not here.
Yeah.
That's a reality. I don't want that, as I say, not to use that. It might sound a bit doom and gloom, but I'm using it as a positive to go, oh my goodness, let that go, rise above it almost. What's the most important thing? It doesn't matter that they always, I've got a big thing about the noises people make when they eat. Really, really gets to me. But actually going, I might miss that when it's not here.
Yeah,
So I kind
that's
of think
so,
that's hit home to me, and it is a little tip. If people want to use it that way, just for a moment, think about, whatever's annoying you, you will really miss when it's not there,
yeah,
and think, you might be there. We can't take any day for granted, can we?
we
And
can't.
this is my feeling big time. Obviously, with what I've been realizing my own mortality, it's very important to just go
This
precious times. Yeah.
It is. And that's such a good point, Nadine, because it's not just, we don't really, sometimes we need that, like diagnosis or whatever to
Yeah.
remind us, but
Mm. Yeah.
this is a reminder that none of us, like, nothing is guaranteed in life.
Mm.
And, we never know what, things can change in an instant. And
Yeah.
it's such a good point that you just made about, like, and I think what it requires us to do in that moment, and part of the practice of like doing the healing work and whatever that looks like for you, but we also want to like share what we do in that moment or what can
Mm.
help us.
Mm.
And I think one of our best friends is pause, is to take a moment, and like that allows you to then say, like, kind of switch gears for a second and say, I don't need to respond this way. Like, and it may sound like that's like just so out there to think that I'm grateful for this person that's annoying me right now, but like that moment allows you to kind of like take that in for a minute and not just like you always have to react,
Mm.
and like instead you can, you know, make a choice. It's a choice point at that time when you pause
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
decide how you're going to react or not react, or let it slide, or
Yeah.
let it roll off your back, or whatever it is. This is the empowerment we have when we do the work, is we can make a choice. We're not guided by we're not driven by our subconscious that's wounded, that's in pain, that's sad or angry, or like, you did this to me when I was 10 years old, and like now it's
Yeah.
coming, like, it might as
Comes
well have
up.
a label over it, 10-year
Yeah.
old, like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, like, we can, and I pinned this comment. Rebecca said, we are responsible for how we feel in the moment. It's so true.
Mm.
We are
Mm.
responsible for how we feel. It's not, you made me feel this way. Like, yes, you could have, I feel this way because you said X, but then that, I believe, is an invitation for us to take inward and say,
Yeah.
what's this
Yeah.
all about for
Mm.
me? Why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
And not to
Yeah.
shame ourselves for feeling that way, to really try to explore and understand.
Mm.
And another tool besides like that moment of pause, is that we can do before we do all this, and ongoing, like you said, not just, in the 5 minutes before we're going to meet somebody, but this is ongoing work, is to write out what it is we feel,
Mm.
or if we're going to have a conversation with somebody, what it is we want to say.
Mm.
Because I know for myself, like, and part of my, I can say the same thing, like repeated holiday get-togethers, like things come up and all that. So it's, I'm not exempt from that. I don't think any of us are really,
No, I
like, um and but it's like, I have recognized within myself that sometimes what's in my heart, what I want to say, what I know I need to say, doesn't come out of my mouth the same way. And so it's like bridging that gap. So for me,
mm.
that's one of the reasons why I wrote, and then I decided to
Yeah.
write a book and share it, because it's easier for me to write it out, how I'm
Mm.
feeling, and then
Mm.
communicate it, so I can get
Mm.
everything I'm feeling out. Because sometimes, like, words are missing, and then that changes the context of what you're saying,
Mm.
and all of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's another important tool.
Yeah, and it's so therapeutic, isn't it, to get it out in some way
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily shouting out to people any reaction.
Yeah.
And that is the power of the pause, isn't it? I'm big on that. It's part of my calmer self method. Give yourself a moment with breath. Normally is the way that I recommend people do it. Just a moment to pause, and then you come back, like you say, the way you choose. It's
Yes.
empowering. It makes such a difference. But years ago, I would have thought that's a cop out. I would have gone, but that's letting people get away with it, and I'm not reacting and I'm not doing. But I have learnt and need to be reminded frequently that actually this is me being a grown up and behaving in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
because it is those old patterns that we fall back into so quickly and so easily are comfortable to us, aren't they? Even
They
if they're not
are.
good for us. And again, it's changing. We talked about change before, haven't we? And it's change and it's trying something different. And someone said to me a while ago, and I always remember it, and it's so, so powerful. I can't remember who it was, but I'll give them credit when I remember. That actually it's so, just try it on, just experiment with it a little bit. I know who it
Mm-hmm.
was, my acupuncturist, the lovely Jeannie Gordon, who does acupuncture for me.
Mm-hmm.
She said it to me and she said, oh, just try it once. You know, she might not use those words, but that's how I took it. Just try it a bit, even if I don't want to, just
Mm-hmm.
try it and see. And that's a lovely way to try something that you're not comfortable with, or something that you feel isn't doing what you want to do. You just try it a little bit. You don't have to do it again that way, but you can try it and it does make a difference. So that
Mm-hmm.
really helps, doesn't it? Try. And I think as well, like you said, it's all of that preparation, all of that, give yourself a pause, write things out. And I recommend, you know, there's so much, everybody knows that there's so much. When I read your words from your book and your poetry, you know, they help me so much because I can really relate to them and understand. So
Mm-hmm.
I encourage everybody to get your books because they're so helpful, because you share so much of what you've been through and what you've done to change. But it is also that we can do things ourselves in little
We
ways.
can.
And it
Yeah.
is, it doesn't have to be a big thing. I do a lot of, people know I do guided meditations, a lot of visualization, the power that we have. And I think what happens a lot of time in the run up, the preparation, we are, and I know I did, we know it's going to be a bit of a disaster. We have this sort of catastrophizing thing going on. Oh, it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be, oh, it's going to be this. I'm never going to be ready. I'm never going to forget carrots or sprouts or something. You know, does it matter? But we give ourselves that. But to spend a bit of time, if you can, having a little, I call it a bit of a daydream, a bit of a meditation about visualizing
Mm-hmm.
it going well and beautifully, and the power that we have. This is manifesting, isn't it? You know, the power that we have to create our own reality. And that is where, yeah, that does sit comfortably with me, because then I am going, oh, I'm feeling my power and I like that.
Yeah.
So we're now, it's not in the moment, it's maybe before. It can be in the moment. You can have a pause and come away and do that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, can't you? And then go back to it. If you have the space and the time to get away, that's really helpful, isn't it, sometimes? But you can spend a moment just visualizing, you know, this going a different way, pretending, daydreaming, whatever you want to call it, and go, this is how it is. And then you come back and it happens that way because you have made it happen that way. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
It makes total sense to me, and
Mm.
I truly believe in that. And it's like you become that frequency that then allows that to happen. So you're not going in there with these expectations that it's going to go the same old way.
Yeah.
And that's also so empowering in that, because like we are actually like the ones that are like creating our realities. So we might
Mm.
not like to fully buy into that, because it's like, why would I be going through this, or why would I be going through that, and all. But we're not meant to just stay in one spot. Like we're meant to, like we're here, this is a school, we're here to learn, we're here to learn
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
our soul has so much depth and complexity, and we're here to allow it the journey it came here to take. And we get in our own way with that because we think we can't. We put limits on ourselves, we put expectations and expectations on other people, and we get caught up in operating from this point of pain and our ego and protection and all these things. But it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that way.
Mm.
And it's not perfect, it's not easy, like you said. Sometimes it's, but I love that what you said about just trying it, because
Mm.
it's
Mm.
it's a reminder that everything is temporary. So pain is temporary, like everything we go through in life is
Yeah.
temporary.
Yeah.
And if we just remember that, like our fear of something, our resistance to something is always the scariest right before we do it. And then once we have started doing it, it's not so scary anymore. And I think
Yeah.
just like if we just try and then just try again and try and
Yeah.
try, like
Yeah.
we're actually doing it. And you also had another like brilliant point that it doesn't have to be this major thing that we do. It can be small little steps.
Mm.
That that is where the huge transformation happens
yeah,
is us being
yeah,
willing to just try it, just take a little, just do something little, something
mm,
like just a
mm,
smidge different than we did
yeah,
before. And
yeah,
all of that adds up to big change and
mm,
transformation.
mm,
And it's not about, oh, I changed and I transformed and that's not what this, it's about understanding ourselves better and knowing ourselves, and then that allows, and loving ourselves,
yes,
that is loving ourselves,
yeah,
this doing this work, and we have compassion when we do it, and that
mm,
allows us to have love for other people, compassion for other people, that's genuine, that's authentic, that's not forced, and our overall lives improve because of it, because we're doing this work on
yeah.
ourselves. And it seems like something that we should have been taught when we were in school, but we
Shouldn't
weren't.
it? Oh, yes, definitely have it on the curriculum if I had my way, because this is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming to this late in life, my learning, I'm still learning, and it's late in my life. You've come to this realization and you've written your beautiful book through a relationship, so not as a child. There were things that you've gone back to childhood and shared experiences, and you can see patterns and parallels and everything. And I've gone back to childhood, and we've talked again about our inner child work that we've done and we help other people with. But it is something, if we can learn this at a young age. And again, the examples we set for the children around
Mm-hmm.
us, we lead by example, what they see, what they pick up. I know that I picked up subconsciously lots of things from my parents, adults in my life and everything, and I repeat them without even realizing it.
Yeah.
So we all do that. So again, if we do this work on ourselves, and like you say, take the time to do the healing, ongoing, it's an ongoing process, like you say, then it has that ripple effect, doesn't it, on everyone around us, all the people that we share our lives with, especially the children. They're going to see that and they're going to go, oh, there's another way, maybe. We don't have to do that pattern. So that little bit of shaking it up and maybe, like we say, experimenting with a different way is beneficial for everybody, isn't it? To go, oh, let's just see if we can do it another way. Because we are setting our grooves, aren't we? We're setting our patterns and we don't realise it. So it is,
Right.
and sometimes it takes, like you said, the book is off the back of a breakup of a relationship. I've got, lots of new learning and everything through my diagnosis. Sometimes it does take something major to shake us up, and then we fall back down in a different way. But that doesn't have to happen either. We can shake it up a little bit ourselves, can't we? And that is helpful, isn't it, to
Yeah.
do that sometimes.
And
Uncomfortable as it is helpful, isn't it?
it is, and it's uncomfortable, but it's so worth it. And I think a lot of us tend to choose, what is that saying? A comfortable hell over an uncomfortable heaven. But it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And going back to your point about, like, subconsciously you didn't real like you were picking up the behaviors of your parents or whoever's around you that has like such major influence, especially when we're in our
Mm,
developing years.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it could be teachers or wherever we are,
mm,
other family members, and so, but so this, what we're talking about doing, this healing work, a lot of times is like we've given some tools about writing it out, taking a pause and all that, but like the deeper work is like healing those areas of where we were wounded, and that also happens on the subconscious level with the
yes,
energy work, like with the Reiki that I do, with the
yeah,
gentle questioning and the meditation work that you do, and the visualization, and all of
mm,
that works on the subconscious level. So then, because most of our behavior is subconscious, we're changing our behavior on a level that we can't necessarily, like, isn't on the conscious, it's on the subconscious level. So we're not then also, like, we're giving ourselves that moment to pause, but sometimes we don't even need that moment to pause because subconsciously we've kind of reprogrammed ourselves
yes,
with
yeah,
this work that we've done, with the
yes,
connection we've made with ourselves.
yeah,
And I
mm,
think it's just so, and again, this might sound like something big and huge, but it happens in baby steps. It happens in
mm.
just trying, like you said.
It really does, doesn't it? And that is something I want people to really hear.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't have to be hard work. It doesn't even have to be that uncomfortable, actually. We can do this lovely healing work in lots of shapes or forms. I work with you very closely. You give me the lovely healing Reiki. The things that come up, the things that shift, the things that process, while I'm just lying down with my doggies having a dozing off almost, aren't
Mm-hmm.
I? Um, the work happens. It's powerful and it's really, really beneficial. but it is something, people sometimes don't understand. They're scared of these things, but it can be done, especially when you work with someone closely
Mm-hmm.
and you put that trust and that faith and that work in someone else's hands as well. That's how I feel it helps me. And I resisted that for such a long time. I thought I could do it all myself and I can do it. And why can't I make everything perfect? As if I'm the one that can control everything. Big
Yeah.
lessons. But when you pass it over to someone else, and you, again, going back to what we've talked about before, asking for help
Yeah.
and just going, okay, I can't do this on my own. It's not meant to be done on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Again, these are the lessons that I'm getting repeatedly. It really does help, doesn't it? So, we've been through a lot of things ourselves. We've learnt, we are continually learning, but it's one of the reasons we do these chats, isn't it? These chit chats is so that we can share and hopefully help other people as well. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
and to your point about asking for help and just like needing help, like we're not meant to do this alone. And sometimes we need other people to point out things about ourselves, positive things that we are not seeing because we're blocked, because we think we're like this X, Y, and Z, or we're always been this way, or whatever, or it's always this way with this family dynamic or whatever. So sometimes we need other people to see what we
yeah,
can't see and to help
yeah.
bridge that gap.
Mm,
Um, and again, it doesn't have to be something major. It's just
no,
these big change happens in small steps too.
mm,
So
mm.
um,
It really does,
and
doesn't it? Sorry, carry on.
no, I was just saying, like, this has just been such a like powerful conversation, and I feel like, I love how everything that we've been talking about in our past couple chit chats have kind of like tied in here because it's
Yeah,
all connected. It is all
they
connected.
do.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. And you said earlier, didn't you? People might be going, "Why are we doing this after Christmas?" That is because it's come off the back of us talking,
mhm.
isn't it? How was your Christmas? What happened? And whatever. This is how it goes. So maybe I'd like to think maybe when we come up to this time next year or the run up to Christmas, we'll prepare a bit better. Maybe I don't know. I'm not going to put that pressure on either of us, but to actually do that a little
Mhm.
bit more of how we can prepare. And if people please do comment, we don't. I mean, I know people are commenting now, and I'm not seeing everything, but
Yeah.
please do comment here because we do look afterwards, don't we? And we will answer. So if there's anything you think, if you'd like a countdown to a calmer Christmas for next year and everything, let us know because then it will give us a little bit of accountability to maybe put that into place for people because it is helpful. The preparation is so vital, isn't it? And like you say, this healing work, this is why it's so valuable, isn't it? That we continue to do it on ourselves
all,
all the time.
all the time,
And
and it's
yeah,
yeah, and we're constantly, and it's okay if we think we've healed something because we're never done with it. So it's okay if it's like we're revisiting it
yeah,
and it's coming up again. and
mm,
and it's more about like the growth happens when you have the awareness of that too. That's
yeah,
also a
yeah,
sign of growth. So
mm,
it's
mm,
allowing ourselves to not judge ourselves and give ourselves grace and that compassion through
yeah,
that process, and that's how we nurture that relationship with ourselves
yeah,
in that.
yeah,
So
mm, mm,
where can people find you if they want to see your beautiful meditations
yeah.
and all the beautiful work you do?
Lovely, thank you for that. The best place to look for things about me and our chit chats go on there as well is my Calmer Self YouTube channel. There's lots on there.
Hmm.
We have talked about we're in the energy of the new
Yes.
moon. It's a time for creating and setting intentions. So perfect for us to experiment with what we've been talking about to now, to maybe experiment with doing things differently. There is a meditation on there that is around the new moon. If people look on there, there's a lot on there. If you can't find it, comment here and I'll point you at it or I'll send it to you. But there's lots on there. So my Calm Self YouTube channel is the perfect place to find out a lot more about me and find some little meditations. And for you, Trish, where can people get your book? Where can people connect with you so they might want to work with you?
Yeah, you can get Love Me and the companion books, Love Me Poetry and Love Me Meditations, on Amazon worldwide, or you can go to thisistrishcampbell.com to find other ways to buy it that's maybe better for you. And yeah, if you do happen to purchase it, I would appreciate a review. That always helps get the word
Yes,
out.
yes,
And again, like this is, and I think Nadine, brought it up. It's my story, and but there's parallels in it for everyone to
yeah,
draw, like that we don't, whatever has happened to us in our lifetime might not be our fault, but it's our responsibility to do the work to heal. And I think Rebecca said it too. We're responsible for how we feel
yes.
in the moment, and
Powerful. That's powerful.
so it begins with us. And yeah, so I invite you to take that
Yeah,
exploration journey yourself.
yeah.
And thank you
And
for. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, follow us both on Instagram as well if you don't already,
Yes.
because we put so Trish, you're always putting posts up that I just think I reread them like I do with your book. It's just reading them because you put so much information there that's really valuable. And I put a post up this morning, not the way that you write so beautifully, but I was out this morning and I took a moment. I always call it snatch a moment of calm. The sunrise, greeting the sunrise this morning. Put a little picture up because I took a picture. I don't do that very
Mm-hmm.
often, but I did. And this is something that I do. And again, people can do it every day. Start your day with me. Do something for you. I looked at the sunrise. I was feeling this wonderful feeling of, isn't nature beautiful? It supports me. I felt wonderful. And I just took a moment, I put my hands on my heart, and I took a moment to just feel that. And
Yeah,
that is something everybody can do. Don't have to go outside. You can just take a moment. You can visualize it. I've got meditations that start your day that way, that kind of thing. But if you can get outside, nature is so beneficial.
it
But
is.
it's
Yeah,
something that if you've taken that moment, the pause, like you say, in a different way, and you've got it there for you, it's there for you to revisit whenever you need it.
it
So
is.
when you're in a moment when it may be all kicking off all over the place and everything, you can just, and with a breath, when you get good at it, you can just take yourself back to that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel that lovely feeling again. So that is something really, really helpful, isn't it? And I know you do things like that, and it is really, it's a little quick, simple thing that we can do. And again, practice. You might feel uncomfortable, but practice. And just know that we have those moments within us. Like you say, if you can get away from what's going on, that's helpful, but you don't have to. Sometimes you can just do it inwardly.
Inwardly,
Um,
yes, exactly.
Definitely. So that,
Pause is our best friend. I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
and a breath sometimes, shut your eyes, take yourself away. The power of our imagination, the way we feel, and remembering things. And as we say so often, nature is there to support us. If you're having a moment, get outside sometimes. Sometimes it's really helpful, isn't it? Just to step outside for a moment, isn't it, if you need to. So,
yeah.
yeah, I just think I'm getting distracted because I'm trying to read the comments at the same
I
time as
know.
talking. I do.
I was going to read a couple just real
Mm.
quick before we close. I
Mm.
have to unpin it now because I can't read it if it's pinned.
Oh.
Cars, Coach with Diane says, cars have mirrors to help us see what is in our blind spot. You both are like mirrors for the people who want to
Oh.
heal trauma, live more balanced and happy lives. Great conversations. Thank you. Thanks,
Oh,
Diane.
thank you,
And
thank you,
Rebecca,
thank you to everyone who's joining, because
I
it's so
know.
lovely.
Thank
We
you.
all
Yeah.
get to say thank
And
you.
again, like in these comments that we lose those after the video, they don't save with the video. So Rebecca says, brought your book with me to Hawaii. Thank you, Rebecca. That's amazing. I hope you enjoy it. And just, yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. If you joined us live, and again, like Nadine said, if you have anything you want to share in the comments when I post the replay will be posted on both of our Instagrams, and you can
Yeah,
find ways to work with us and all of our content, and just get to know us over there and on Facebook as well. So watch for the replay, and let us know if there's anything you want to us to touch on in our next chit chat.
yeah, please do, because we're happy to talk about anything, and it's all,
It's all
we
connected.
talk about.
Yeah.
We do talk about stuff from the book primarily, but we can talk about obviously anything you want to. And I think just to give people an idea of what we might be talking about next time, we did say we might go into that, the pressure we put ourselves under for New Year, for the resolutions and that kind of thing, because again, it's a time, isn't it, where we can make life so hard for ourselves and we don't
And
have
we
to. So I think
yeah.
I think we were going to touch on that. So let us know, everybody, what you think, what you want, what you need. We are, as you can tell, we're happy to talk about things.
Yes.
But it's lovely, and I really hope this has helped, people, because it's a big issue, and we repeat, don't we? And we don't have to always do the same things. We can improve a little bit, like little
And we
steps, like
can be
you're doing.
empowered in that, yeah,
Yeah,
and make a choice.
yeah,
So thank you so
definitely.
much, Nadine, for
Thank you so much.
having
It's
these
been lovely.
conversations. I always love where we end up
Mhm.
and how it just flows. So
It does.
and thanks
Thank
everyone
you.
for joining us, and we'll be
Thank
back
you. You're so grateful. Thank you.
shortly with another one. Take care.
Lovely. Thank you. Bye bye.